normally he does take questions from the press. He took them on Air Force One coming here, and he was talking about how he wanted to reach a ceasefire, as you mentioned, and he wouldn't be happy walking away from this without that. And now we don't know exactly what they agreed to. Russian President Vladimir Putin at this podium here behind me was talking about an agreement that was reached. We don't know what is in that agreement. There's so many questions still left here tonight, Elizabeth, that we don't have answered by the White House at this moment. And the president walking away off this stage, he's going to head back to Washington. This also wrapped up much earlier than we thought. You know, they were talking in there in this 3-on-3. It was a 1-on-1, but changed to a 3-on-3 with his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who was sitting just up here, along with his special envoy, Steve Witkoff. That went on for about 2.5, maybe nearly 3 hours. We don't even know if they got to that bilateral lunch, including his Treasury Secretary and Commerce Secretary, and they called us to come to our seats really quickly. And then that conference or, statement was shared here quickly after on the stage behind me. You see still the name tags here on the chairs, how quickly they left the room and now are going back. We don't know exactly if the president just yet called Ukrainian President Zelensky. He said he would be calling members of NATO, European leaders, along with Zelensky. He said there's no deal until there is a deal. So certainly many questions from us tonight. My question here was trying to shout at him and say, what comes next here? President Putin even offering to say, come to Moscow next. We don't know exactly if there is a second meeting at this moment.
Yeah, Kelly, super quick. Listen, the suspicion all along is that Putin, even President Trump said, Putin's playing me. He's tapping me along. He asked for this meeting on the eve of threatened terrible sanctions from President Trump. President Trump didn't impose the sanctions and instead gave him this meeting. This meeting happens and they come out of the meeting. He says, well, maybe there'll be another meeting. It looks like another delay tactic by Putin.
Right, and that was the concern here from many critics of this meeting, saying that Putin was going to win here, basically. He was going to walk away. He had the hand here because he was getting that photo op that you saw there on the stage that said Alaska 2025. You saw the president trying to host this here on U.S. soil, saying that was a win, flanked by military aircraft, having the B-2 bombers going by overhead. But at the end of the day, Putin still got that photo op. They had a positive interaction here, it seemed, on stage, seeming friendly, and then walked away from here with the potential next meeting. But again, we don't know if the president here got what he really wanted at the end of the day. He did say he wasn't going to be negotiating, but he said he wanted to get a second meeting, and we don't know if that's going to be the case, Elizabeth.
Yeah, he was also pretty clear he wanted a ceasefire and that was non-negotiable. We shall see. And it's interesting, Kelly, they met for nearly 3 hours. They got on stage and spoke for, the two of them were on stage for 12 minutes, just 12 minutes. And during those 12 minutes, Vladimir Putin spoke for 9. President Trump spoke for 3 minutes. So those numbers pretty striking and unusual for our normally very verbose president. Kellie Meyer reporting live from Anchorage. Let's go now live to NewsNation's Robert Sherman, who is in Kyiv. Robert, as these talks were happening, as Putin was sitting across from President Trump, bombs were still dropping as Russian missiles were falling in Ukraine.
Yeah, there were alerts going off across the country as the doors were shut and this 3-on-3 meeting was taking place. We got it from the Ukrainian Air Force. There were drone incursions. There were ballistic missiles that were fired at Ukraine. And this has been going on throughout the day, Elizabeth. We have stood here in Kyiv and heard the air raid sirens going off 4 or 5 times here today. So that is why coming into today, Ukrainians did not think that it was realistic or did not necessarily believe the Russian stance that there was a sincere interest in finding peace. Ukrainians also had low optimism coming into today that there would be any firm agreement that could come out of this because there was no Ukrainian delegation in Alaska. There was no European delegation in Alaska. So optimism was low. There was only really one win that Ukrainians had an outside chance that they were hoping for, and that's that a trilateral meeting would be put on the calendar at some point. There is no clear indication that there is a trilateral meeting that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has been invited to yet. Maybe something comes out of these phone calls that the president says he has to have with Europe and the Ukrainian leadership, but there's nothing clear that's coming out of it here. Bottom line, Elizabeth, is that you have a lot of Ukrainians who have felt very helpless watching all this go on, had no idea what was going to come out of Alaska, and frankly, after this 12-minute press conference, still have no idea.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.